Nigeria on the march again.
On the march again.
Looking for Mr. President.
On the march again.
Into the government of Nigeria.
Long live the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Democracy that we started 25 years ago is not supposed to be practiced today. It is supposed to evolve.
It's also about how you are able to manage resources, human resources. You know, the men around you, how you are able to tap their talents, how you are able to harness their talents.
Imagine why the entire country went up in flames. What do you mean? What happened? When it's not that we had collective amnesia, you know, we all passed through it.
It is difficult to have faith in that kind of country. Difficult to tell yourself with a straight face that you are proud of being Nigerian. It's Herculean to believe in it.
Come for me.
All these things we have came under democracy. A vibrant stock exchange, an explosion of Nigerian enterprise, our tech industry, yes, all the tech startups. Our music industry died. It died under the military. It died. You open a radio station, 80% was foreign music, clubs, foreign music. There were no, the number of superstars per capita, dangerously low. Musicians were fleeing. Record labels that had come were going. EMI, Premier Music. The only star that was shouting was Fela at some point, and even he at the risk of his life. They eventually beat him, arrested him, all of that. This one that Shehu Kuti entered jail and came out. Fela would not have come out. Oh. That's democracy. Went to court freed him. Influencing, content creation, open YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Even the online newspaper we had, they were locking them down every day. They were seizing the entire print run, shutting down the printing press, putting pregnant women in jail, threatening children. One man was told, Segun Adeniyi, who's the present chairman of the editorial board of this day newspaper, he was arrested for publishing a story, I think, about Abacha being sick. In his presence, a military man that had arrested another pro-democracy activist told him the name, the age of his children, how many months pregnant his wife was, and told that night they were going to rape his wife. Shehu Sani reported this in his book, Last 100 Days of Abacha. Happened in this country. They were not ashamed of it. It was a reign of terror. Some of them, people even say Abacha didn't even know what some of them were doing, but they were doing it because they knew they could get away with it. You know, Obasanjo was arrested by Abacha. Chaos. None of the freedoms we have today would have been possible. You see, it's not about a particular government. It's not about Obasanjo or Yar'Adua or Jonathan or Buhari or Tinubu. It's not about them. It's about democracy. The fact that PDP could lose an election after having a monopoly for years is because of democracy. It's not really about the strength of the APC. It's that under a democracy, people can choose that you didn't do well, go. There's a beauty in that. So that freedom also reflects on the freedom of markets. When markets are free, people can come up with ideas. Tech people can experiment. Influencers can experiment. With a free social media space, people can open businesses on YouTube. People can go to the north and set up incubators. You know, women can speak up because there's no more brutal thing for the voice of minorities and women than a dictatorship. The freedom, the flourishing that we have to be able to be tweeting about the current government, celebrities coming on the street to attack government, people throw and throw in. It's all democracy. It was not even nearly possible under the military. Democracy has disappointed us. But even the worst democracy that we've had in the last 25 years is better than any military dictatorship we have ever had.
I was saying something about the government initially, that they didn't leverage on what they have. What do I mean by that? Why will people be waving Russian flags and doing all manner of things when people actually died to bring this democracy? And then all of a sudden, if you notice it, you will notice that now there are some very quiet calls. People are saying there should be military rule again. I can't support that. It's only when you don't know history, that's when you are doomed to repeat it. And why I blame the government, I mean the federal government, is that people couldn't have gone through this same hardship in bringing back democracy. If you do not educate the younger people to help them to understand the sacrifices of the heroes past, I think it's part of our old anthem, Abi. Then you think, it's okay, we could burn everything down. When you burn down your house, where are you going to sleep?
So I was going to point out two things, and also based on what we've said. One is, it is almost like if a man gets to the age of adulthood, and then he leaves the house, there is some sense of responsibility over his own life. Whether or not democracy is how we want it and the likes, is also a duty of how much work are we doing to continue and to develop that democracy. Democracy that we started 25 years ago is not supposed to be what we practice today. It is supposed to evolve, and everybody is supposed to have a role to play. Now, if you all don't play that role, some people will play it for us. Nature abhors no vacuum. People will play that role for us. And those people that will play it will develop it to suit them. So the question is, are we actually playing that role? Because even countries now, we mentioned the UAE and Saudi Arabia, the kind of governance system they run now is not what they started running 25, 30 years ago. Even they themselves, it evolved over time. And that evolution was not somebody saying, this is how. It is everybody saying, see, where we are right now, this is what we need to be doing. And so the question we need to ask ourselves is, are we? And that's also taken to the point of the strategic middle class. For democracy or any governance to happen, or even to move forward in any country, the middle class has a very strategic role to play.
You don't have now.
Now, we don't have now because when we had, a lot of them were not interested in the principle of governance and democracy. When you are interested in how you are going to make your salary and how you're going to take care of your family, and not interested in what happens in that system every 4 years, you cannot run from it. It will always come back. And interestingly, those who are interested in it, do we know the reason for their interest? The people in the lower socioeconomic ladder are interested in it for their bag of rice and their Indomie every 4 years. The middle class are people who can understand that bag of rice is not going to feed me. We can reason it out. We are not hungry at the point of trying to vote. But those people who are supposed to play that strategic role are disenfranchised about some years ago. And for the past 10 years, instead of them to even step aside, they started leaving the country. So now we are left with a higher class who is very low in number. It's a pyramid. Now we have the base, who are now interested, but they're interested for the wrong reasons. And we'll keep having the democracy that they give us because we've deferred that duty to them. And they will keep choosing the leaders for us because everybody has the right to decide. But if you don't use it, people who go there will use it and they will use it for their own.
But people are
That's one. That's what I'm saying. Who is deciding? The people that are deciding are people who will decide for a bag of rice.
No, people are deciding.
That's one.
Let's
Let me do the second point. Second point is, you made a very interesting point, and I'll take us back to our Luther days in school. The people, now, when a Luther starts, there are people who are just saying, we don't want this, we want this. There are people who follow that crowd. There are people in that midst who understand why we don't want this,
Ideologically.
who know what we're going to do when we get this. Now, when power is gotten to that mass of people, if you're not careful, the people who are going to hold that power and run with it are people who just said, we don't want rice, we want beans. Well, now, how do we manage the beans when we get it? Those who have that expertise most of the time are not welcome on the table. So guys go there and says, okay, now we want beans, and it's there. Okay, so now that is the beans. Okay, so how do we now eat the beans now to real long? They will not get call those guys. You know how we do these beans now. Come join us. Then they will not be. Then the guy says, oh, these beans you cannot have too much because, and it's like, no, I can't have too much. We fought for it. So the people who that's why they say if you don't partake in it, you don't have the right to complain, because the people who were in front fighting. When the power came and they took it, the people who should have gone to say, see, we understand that you have the mobilizing power to be in front of the alluter. But when it comes to how do we now decide on the aftermath of that alluter, that section requires a different set of capabilities. It is no more a rallying again. It is now management and administration. The people who are now doing that function, the only thing most of them were, their expertise is in allutizing. So now they're confused.
Politics is also about how you can coordinate or harness grassroots elements, and then harness it, form a kind of synergic partnership between the grassroots and then the elitist part, the elitist group of politics, and then the grassroots group of politics. So when you have understanding of those two forces, then you'll be able to know how to. It's also about how you are able to manage resources, human resources. The men around you, how you are able to tap their talents, how you are able to harness their talents. So whatever goes for Tinubu today is because I worked for him too for 8 years. So whatever goes for Tinubu today is because he's an astute politician. He understands grassroots politics. He understands everything. Let me give you one instance. When Yomi Edu came as the gubernatorial candidate, and then they wanted to start the campaign. So Yomi Edu was saying, okay, let's go to Ikoyi, let's go to this place, Victoria Island and everything. He now told him, no, we can start our political campaign from Ikoyi. Who are the people there? These are rich men. How many of them do you think will vote? How many of them even vote during the election? So let us go to Agege. Let's go to Mushi. Let's start from Mushi and everything. So it's the crowd that we get from there that will be able to, that will mobilize into the state platform. And then we'll start like that. But when you go to Ikoyi or you go to Victoria Island, and then they see maybe 50 people, 100 people behind you, then they will think that you are not serious. So let's go there. So in one house alone, in Agege, they could even mobilize 100 people in one house. But when you go to Ikoyi, you can see 30 rooms. Only 2 people will be there, the man and the servant. You understand? The children and the wife, they are abroad. So how many people? But in here, you will see face me, I face you, and then in one face me, I face you room, you can see about 15 people sleeping. So when they went there, and then they mobilized, in terms of giving water, giving food and everything. The people rushing from the house, he too marveled, he was surprised. So these are some of the things that you have to consider as a politician, so that you can be able to know how to mobilize. It's not about mobilization alone, then you also have to take decisions. And your decision-making process must be fast and very deep.
But you have to understand, I always used to say that I was born into politics. And what I mean is, since I was born, my father already was planning to be president. He was even working before, decades before, all his philanthropy, all his outreach to Nigerian people, Nigerian students, universities, donations and grants. These things were basically stemmed from his deep desire to support the Nigerian people and to actually serve. So he felt that Nigeria gave him a lot and he was going to give back. So I really felt the pulse, because even my house, if you know anything about 20th Street in the 90s, you know that place was packed. I mean, people were coming from different states to camp outside my father's house. They were cooking on the side of the road. They might not see my dad for a month, but they were perfectly happy to stay there to wait for him because they knew that once they met him, he was ready to support them. So I already had an idea that there were some stresses and there were some problems in the country at the time. So since I knew that, and I could see that like most of the people, once they arrived, they were coming with, like, you could see that they were not necessarily happy, so they were under some pressure. So it got me to think that, okay, it's fine so I grew up knowing that it is okay for somebody to ask for help if they need to ask for help. And then it is my duty, or those who actually have the capabilities, to support them and help them. So I never looked at, I knew that my father was trying to make a difference. And I thought that the reason he wanted to be president was not necessarily to be commander-in-chief of the armed forces, but was because he felt that he could impact the majority of the Nigerian people through that office. And he was ready to utilize the office to the best of his abilities.
Now, what is the thing about June 12th? What's so enigmatic about it that makes it fit into that niche of the Democracy Day for Nigeria? It's because it's a summary of the struggle of the Nigerian spirit. You know, the struggle to say, we will not bow. We want better governance and we want a better country. You know, and that particular day, you know, that was the freest and fairest election in Nigerian history. So you don't throw that away as if it didn't happen, because it happened. That whole day was peaceful. I remember that day. It was peaceful. And the election, people did the election easily, nobody, no thuggery, no nothing like that, no snatching of any box or anything. So imagine why, when on the 23rd, when they say they annulled it, imagine why the entire country went up in flames. That, what do you mean? What happened? And no matter what Babangida was trying to explain, it didn't make sense to anybody. Because, I mean, when it's not that we had collective amnesia, you know, we all passed through it. And we knew nothing went wrong. We knew everything was peaceful, you know. And of course, we also knew that Abiola would win, you know, because he was loved all over the country.
But let us tell ourselves the truth. Many of you have given up on Nigeria. Many of you are convinced that this ship is sinking, that this country cannot change. We do not trust our politicians, but even that is cliche. We do not trust the activists. We do not trust ourselves. Everyone is seen as searching for a piece of that national cake. That's what we have become as a country, an unending search for a piece of the cake. It is difficult to have faith in that kind of country. Difficult to tell yourself with a straight face that you are proud of being Nigerian. It's Herculean to believe in it. It's difficult to have faith, even when you look at the young people, scrambling for crumbs off the table, buffeted by the need to avoid the poverty of their fathers, changing principles on a whim just like those before them, perpetuating scams in the name of advocacy, running businesses long on hype and short on substance. It is difficult to have faith in that kind of country. It is Herculean to believe in it. It is almost impossible to be proud of it. No. Nigeria is not a great country. It wasn't great yesterday. It isn't great today. It can be great. It should be great. It could have been great. And if we sit down and get serious, it will be great. After the Dana crash, I gave up hope in this country. I lost my faith. I struggled with my love. But 2 days later, I was back working for the country. And that, I think, is the real story. It is okay to fall out of love. It's okay to hate that love. It is okay to condemn, to criticize, to react, to fight, to protest, to demand, but you must return to love in the country. You must return to being pained, even in those who appear to be ripping the country to shreds. Every once in a while, you see that wistfulness for what might have been, that pain for what we have become. You must hold on to that. Because this is the good news. It is not too late. When human beings, wherever human beings exist, it is never too late. I do not come as a prophet of cliché. I come here as a student of history because other countries have done it. This ship is sinking rapidly, but it has not yet sunk. As long as we are in Nigeria or believe in Nigeria, as long as Nigerians live in Nigeria or work for Nigeria or fight for Nigeria and refuse to give up on Nigeria, there is hope. We must not ever lose that pain that we should feel for a country that continues to fail us. Not because it deserves it, but because we have no choice. No matter how disappointed we are in our country, we cannot abandon it. We cannot use Nigeria as an excuse to fail Nigeria. Perhaps we should handle Nigeria the way a mother handles a drug-addicted child, with tough love sometimes, with deliberate gentility at other times, demanding at one time, encouraging at the other. Listen, guys, we have no other country. I don't come here to excite you. I come here so we can encourage one another. I come here to remind you that after all is said and done, you and I are still here talking about this country, living in this country, working for this country, sending money back to this country, getting annoyed at this country. And because we are still here, physically or emotionally, we have no choice but to keep working. Let's keep the faith. If we stumble, let's rise. When we fall, let's keep the faith. If we stumble, let's rise. When we fall, let's rebound. Let's refuse to let Nigeria go. Let's insist that it must work. Let's keep working until it changes. Let's keep changing until we tear down these walls. Because we can. Because we have no choice.